So lesson 140, off we go. So there's a paper in front of you with some notes that's describing something to you that I'm not sure if you did last year or not. But final lesson of the book, here we go. So lesson 140 is talking about a thing called a coordinate system. So a coordinate system has a thing called an x-axis, which goes horizontal, which means this direction that I'm doing my arm right now, or the direction I drew the x-axis on your notes page. It also has a y-axis, which goes vertical, up and down, which is the way I'm moving my arm right now, if you want a visual on that. If you put those together, there's going to be a point where those two things cross, and that's called the origin. Anybody give me an English synonym for the word origin? No? The origin of something. What does that word mean, just in English, not in math?
Making.
I can, like creation. What are you going to say? Like original. Start would be another word we could use. So we're going to start our work today always from this origin, this point where these two things cross, these two axes cross. When we have these two things cross, there's four areas that are called quadrants. Quadrant 1 is the top right, quadrant 2 is the top left, 3 is the bottom left, 4 is the bottom right. For some reason, they've always used Roman numerals to number the quadrants. I don't know why, but we just did Roman numerals the other day, so that's a good place to be. So what we're going to use these x and y axis and quadrants and origins to do is kind of like longitude and latitude are used, or if any of you have ever played the game Battleship, we're going to make a grid, and any point on the grid can be given two numbers called its coordinates. So geography, have you guys done like longitude and latitude stuff? So if I tell you the longitude and latitude on a globe or a map, you should be able to figure out which country we're pointing to. Or maybe you watch movies with those kind of coordinates in them, like the, what was the one movie they just did with Tom Holland was on a treasure hunt?
Uncharted.
Yeah, there was longitude, latitude stuff in that movie where they were trying to figure out like where the coordinates were. Wasn't there a scene there where he had the coordinates, it was like fake coordinates, and he left them and that girl went to like the wrong place? Yeah, like, yeah, so, but that's the idea of this. Anybody ever play Battleship? Yeah, so that, you say like G6, and they're labeled. Two columns are labeled. It gets you the right part on the grid. So what we're doing today is a thing with an x-axis and a y-axis that's going to get us a location on the grid. These two coordinates are called an ordered pair because the order matters. If I say go to 5, 7, that's not the same as if I send you to 7, 5. That's a different place on the grid. So here's the most important things, I think. So if I lost you for a little bit, you've started to zone out, zone back in. The first coordinate, and they'll be given to you like this, in parentheses with a comma. The first coordinate is called the x-coordinate. The x-coordinate is going to tell you how far to move right if we're positives, or left if we're negatives. Just like the number line. Imagine the x-axis to be just like a number line. First number, if it's positive 2, that's telling you to move which direction? Right, 2 squares. If this was a negative 2, you'd move left, 2 squares. So the first number is moving you right or left, and you're starting from the origin. That's why the origin has the name. That's the beginning of the process. The second coordinate is called the y-coordinate. And they put those in alphabetical order for you. First number is the x, second number is the y. The second number is telling you how far you're going to move up if you're a positive number, or to move down if you're a negative number. More like a thermometer probably. You're used to probably seeing occasionally a wall-mounted thermometer. Positives always up, negatives always down on those. So for example, if I'm talking about 2, 3, the 2 is the x-coordinate, telling you to move right 2. The 3 is the y-coordinate, that's telling you to move up 3. So we'd start at the origin, and I'd go over 2 squares and up 3. So you can see I drew you a little grid here. So you start at the origin, which is where these two lines are crossing, and if I go over 2 corners and up 3 corners, I'd land on that dot that I labeled with an A, and I could put that on the grid. If I do 3, 2, where would you be moving for 3, 2? Yeah.
So, right 3 up
Right,
2.
right 3 and up 2. And you can see I put a little dot there for a B. If I start at the origin and I move right 3 of those lines or corners or squares or whatever you want to call them, and then up 2 spaces, I'd land on that dot that I labeled with a B. And then I did some more problems in different zones. So -3, 4, I'm going to go left 3, then I'd go up 4. And that C, I put a dot there for a C to match up with -3, 4. Does anybody want me to visit your paper with my finger or my pencil and just sort of count them out with you to where we're landing? Anybody with the trouble there? Okay, D with 5, -2, it's +5, so I went right 5. And then with a negative second number, I went down the 2. And I made a dot there for where D would go. For E, with a -4, I went left 4. And then with a -1, I went down 1. So E is left 4, down 1. I made a dot for where E would go. If I throw in a 0, the 0 makes you not have to move at all for that direction. So with 0, 4, I'm not going to go right or left because that first number is a 0. That just got wiped out. I would just take the 4 and go up 4. So you can see there's an F on the dot there for where F would go. -3 goes left 3, and then we're done. And I put a dot for G there. 0, -2 is just down 2, and I threw an H there. The 4, 0 is right 4, so I threw an I there. I didn't draw a point on the origin itself, but if I did want the coordinates of the origin itself, it would be 0, 0. Anybody question about how the pair of numbers is helping us move around the grid? Okay, so without pixies, what was this line called? X-axis. What was this line called? Y-axis. Where they cross is called the origin, and that's where we start all of our motion. The first number is going to send you either left or right. Right if it's positive, but left if it's negative. And once you made that move, the second number moves you either up or down. Up if it's down if it's negative. I agree with all of that. Question about the idea? Let's try it out. So here's a sheet with some new letters and numbers. So what I'm looking for you to do for the next couple minutes, on the ones where I gave you the letter, I'm expecting for you to give me back the numbers. And you should write them in parentheses with a comma. If you're more comfortable, if I give you the numbers, start with that. If I give you the numbers, I'm expecting you to find the letter. So when you're done with that, give me a call and I'll bring my answers over and check your answers and see if you're on the right track. If you're having trouble, just raise your hand, I'll come over, give you some help. If you want to do the first like 2 or so and then have me check those before you go forward, I can do that with you. If you want to try just 1 or 2, make sure you're going in the right direction. Once you get that done, then I'll tell you about the home. I'll just tell you now the homework. The homework is going to be on set ZZ. So when we verify your answers are good and that you're doing the right thing, we can go ahead and start on set ZZ. Why don't we cut that off and then I'll start mingling around and answering questions. Did we start it? Yeah.